What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about a film that was released this year that I'm really bummed that I didn't get to see in the theater. I just got really busy and didn't really have an opportunity to go check this one out in theaters. But yesterday it went up on VOD finally, and this is from one of my favorite filmmakers, Sofia Coppola. Sofia Coppola is one of my favorite directors. I feel like Lost in Translation was a film for me that really early on kind of deepened my love for filmmaking and what filmmaking as a medium can accomplish. There's a lot of quiet nuance in that film. I think the performances are brilliant. I just love it a lot. And I dearly love The Virgin Suicides and Marie Antoinette. I was a big fan of The Beguiled. Really, the only film in her catalog I've seen thus far that I didn't really enjoy was The Bling Ring. But despite not enjoying that film, there's still things about it I respect. And I think Sophia is such an intelligent and incredible filmmaker that puts out movies that really stick a lasting impact with me. And so seeing that she was making a film about Priscilla Presley that was going to be based off of a book, and you're obviously trying to capture a very specific moment in history, I was very interested to see what kind of direction that it would take. I was very hopeful that it was a movie I could add into my rotation of films from Sophia that I love, and the film I'm going to be talking about with you today is Priscilla. Priscilla is directed by Sofia Coppola, the unseen side of a great American myth in Elvis and Priscilla Presley's long courtship and turbulent marriage from a German army base to his estate at Graceland. So, as I said, very hopeful that I was going to like this movie. I'm a huge fan of Sofia Coppola, and I thought this film was brilliant. I absolutely loved it. I think the execution is flawless. I think the performances are amazing, and I'm really excited to tell you about it today. Plot description is very simple, but very to the point. At the beginning of the film, we are introduced to Priscilla, played by Cailee Spaeny, who is living with her family in Germany on a military base, and you can tell she's just kind of miserable. She, I believe at the beginning of the film, is 14 or 15 years old. She has had to leave America, go with her family to be stationed overseas. She just misses her friends from home. She misses being at home, and you can tell there's just this loneliness that's kind of following over her. And she's out at a restaurant one day, and she's approached by this army captain who asks her if she knows who Elvis is. And she says, "Of course I know who Elvis is. I'm very familiar with his music." And he says, "We're having a party at our house tonight, and Elvis wants you to come. He wants to see people from home. He wants to meet people from home and talk to them." And so she manages to get her family to agree to let her go to this party. She meets Elvis. The two of them have some conversations, and a relationship starts between the two of them. And the entire film is the examination of their relationship, but less from Elvis's perspective and more from Priscilla's perspective. So as I said, I thought this movie was brilliant. And the first thing I want to talk about is the performances. Number one, Jacob Elordi, who plays Elvis in this film. I am familiar with Jacob's work because of Euphoria. So I'm very familiar with his character of Nate Jacobs and just kind of who he is in that show. And so watching him portray this very well recognized and well known figure from our history was really interesting to me, but he nailed it. I got lost in his performance in the first 15 minutes. Just his vocal inflection, the way that he commands his room with his body, his dialogue delivery, just everything about his performance was incredible. And a lot of people are going to compare this to Austin Butler's performance in Elvis, which is a movie I hated. I thought it was absolutely terrible, but I did think Austin did a very good job in that movie. But I almost like Jacob Elordi's performance in this more. I think there's a lot more nuance to it. I think there's a lot more that has to be done in small conversations. He doesn't perform the music most of the film. There's a couple of scenes with music. He plays piano in one scene, but so much more is through his performance and his dialogue delivery, and I just thought his performance was brilliant. But I think Cailee Spaeny's performance as Priscilla is one of the most understated performances of the year. I thought she was incredible in every scene in this movie. She has to do so much with her facial expressions in this movie because she has dialogue, but so much of the emotional impact of scenarios on her life in this movie are through these very quiet sequences of loneliness. And I think she just eats up the scenery in this, and I think she demands your attention whenever the camera is on her. And that is the highest compliment that I can pay an actor. It's just every time she was on screen, I was completely captivated with her performance. And the two of them have really great chemistry that builds from the very first scene. And I absolutely loved that about this movie. As per Sofia Coppola's usual, cinematography and production design in this is incredible. It complements the mood perfectly. I love how somber the cinematography is. At the beginning of this film, it's very gray, it's very bleak. And then when she gets to Graceland and is going to these parties, there's a lot more vibrant colors and there's a lot more excitement. And then when she's trapped back at home in Graceland, it's very muted again and it complements her mood. And I love that contrast. And I think Sofia does a brilliant job utilizing the cinematography and the costumes and the production design to elevate the mood and to keep you engaged with the story. Obviously, when you look at the story of Elvis and Priscilla Presley, what comes up so much is how young Priscilla Presley was when they got together. Elvis was this person who could have had anyone he wanted, and I believe at the beginning of this movie, Elvis, when he first meets Priscilla, is 24, and I believe she's 14 or 15. So she was still a minor, and obviously this is a very different time period in our culture where people did get married off very young, but I think it poses a really interesting question. And what I really like about the way Sofia shows their relationship is that there is a lot of subtle manipulation early on Elvis's side about like how he misses home and he misses family. And you can tell that like even though she's kind of like, okay, this guy is one of the most powerful people on the planet as far as celebrities are concerned, and he's interested in me for some reason, a kid at that age group is never going to say no really to what a superstar tells them. I mean, she listened to Elvis music. She was familiar with who Elvis was as a person, owned his records. Like when someone like that starts fawning over you, your ability to make decisions on your own volition is going to become very difficult. And so I think that the way that it was portrayed through these, like it's not like early on he was mean, but he was using his position of power to manipulate her to continue to stay. And what I think is so fascinating about it is when he finally gets her to Graceland, it's like forcing her to sit around the house just so that she could be there for a phone call. And just the ways that he manipulated her and tried to convince her that he wasn't having an affair when he would leave or that things weren't going on behind her back. There's just so much subtlety in that manipulation, and you can kind of feel how Priscilla is like, okay, I'm in this situation now. I have a high expectation for me, but she's just a kid trying to finish school, and it was heartbreaking to watch. I feel like a lot of this movie paralleled for me with the recent biopic Spencer about Princess Diana, where you see this person who is so well known in history and is so well known because of who they were and their position of power, and getting a little bit more background, because I know this was based off of a book that Priscilla wrote or that Priscilla worked on, is so fascinating to see someone who was so highly regarded kind of use their position of power to even manipulate the person who they are supposed to love the most. And there are moments in this where you can see how their relationship worked, and there were genuine moments of care between the two people. But I think that from the start it was doomed. I think when you see how the relationship came to be, there was no way that it was going to last. There was no way that it was going to work. And how Elvis just got worse and worse over time, and how his power got to his head. It was just really fascinating to watch. And I think because these performances are so incredible, it complements the story. And I really enjoyed this movie a lot. The other thing I didn't talk about yet is the soundtrack. There's really no Elvis music in this, but I think the soundtrack accompanies the film perfectly and kind of creates that mood and tone that Sofia Coppola is going for. And I just think all of the pieces fit together in this puzzle perfectly to make a really incredible piece of cinema. And this is going to work its way into one of my favorite films that Sofia has made. I'm already really excited to revisit it. And if you haven't seen Priscilla yet, please watch it. It is great. So have you seen Priscilla? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was incredible. I'm a huge Sofia Coppola fan, and this is just right there with some of the best movies she's made. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.